Listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could directly impact your job, your paycheck, your healthcare, your travel plans, and even your family's financial stability within days. This is not speculation. This is happening right now. Another government shutdown is rapidly approaching, and this time, the consequences could be wider and more painful than most Americans are prepared for. Welcome back to Senior Mentor. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit the like button right now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because we break down major government and financial updates in a way that actually makes sense. Do that now, because what's coming next could affect you personally. Now let me be clear from the start, this is not politics as usual. This is not just another headline you scroll past. This is a real deadline, with real consequences, and it's coming fast. Lawmakers are running out of time, negotiations are breaking down, and if nothing changes, the federal government could partially shut down by the end of the week. Here's what makes this situation different. Normally, shutdown talks happen quietly, behind closed doors, and a deal is rushed through at the last minute. This time, the divisions are deeper, the demands are sharper, and neither side appears willing to blink. That's why millions of Americans could feel the impact almost immediately. Right now, Republicans and Democrats are locked in a fierce standoff over government funding. The deadline is approaching fast, and the Senate has already failed to clear a key procedural vote that was required to move the funding package forward. That failure alone tells us something important. There is no agreement in place, and time is running out. If Congress does not pass a funding bill, parts of the government will shut down. And when that happens, hundreds of thousands of federal workers could be furloughed or forced to work without pay. TSA agents, military personnel, federal employees who keep airports running, borders secured, and emergency systems operational. Imagine going to the airport and realizing security lines are moving slower than ever because TSA agents are working unpaid or not working at all. Imagine military families suddenly missing paychecks. Imagine delays in disaster response, federal assistance programs, and public health initiatives. And here's the part most people don't realize. Even if you're not a federal employee, you are not immune. During a shutdown, the ripple effects hit the private sector, contractors, small businesses, and entire local economies that depend on federal funding. Now let's talk about what's actually causing this mess, because this is where things get serious. At the center of the standoff is funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Senate Democrats are demanding major changes before they agree to fund DHS. These demands include new accountability measures for federal agents, changes to enforcement policies, restrictions on the use of masks, and mandatory body cameras. Their argument is simple. If state and local law enforcement officers are required to identify themselves, wear body cameras, and follow strict use of force policies, then federal agents should be held to the same standards. Republicans, however, argue that changing these policies through a funding bill is dangerous and sets a bad precedent. Because of this disagreement, Democrats are threatening to block DHS funding entirely unless reforms are included. Republicans, on the other hand, refuse to alter the spending package that already passed the House. That means even if the Senate reaches a compromise, the bill would still have to go back to the House for approval. And the House isn't even in session until Monday. That alone increases the risk of a shutdown. Behind the scenes, talks between the White House and Senate Democrats are intensifying. There is discussion about separating DHS funding from the larger government package so that most of the government can remain funded while negotiations continue. This would temporarily fund critical programs like the military, public health initiatives, and education programs, while buying time to negotiate DHS reforms. But here's the key phrase you need to remember: there is no firm deal. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is signed. And until both sides officially agree, the shutdown threat remains very real. Now let's talk about what happens if this shutdown actually begins. First, federal workers could be forced to work without pay or be furloughed entirely. That means missed paychecks, delayed bills, and financial stress for families who are already stretched thin by inflation and rising costs. Second, Key agencies like FEMA could face operational delays. That matters more than you think. Disaster response, emergency funding, and recovery assistance could all be impacted if a shutdown drags on. Third, travel disruptions could worsen. TSA agents are considered essential workers, but during past shutdowns, absentee rates skyrocketed because workers simply couldn't afford to show up unpaid. That led to massive airport delays, cancellations, and chaos. And fourth, this could seriously impact healthcare. This is the part that doesn't get enough attention. Government funding talks have also stalled around healthcare subsidies. These subsidies help keep insurance premiums lower for millions of Americans. Without them, healthcare costs are already rising sharply. And if Congress fails to act, premiums could increase even more going into next year. We're talking about families seeing their healthcare costs double or even triple. Deductibles already sit in the thousands. Add higher premiums on top of that, and many Americans will simply be unable to afford care. There have been discussions about alternative solutions, including proposals that would place money directly into health savings accounts to help Americans pay medical expenses. But none of these proposals have passed, and until something changes, uncertainty remains. Now here's something that should concern everyone. This would not be the first time a shutdown drags on far longer than expected. The last shutdown stretched for weeks. Another one under a previous administration lasted over a month. These shutdowns only ended after temporary extensions that are now expiring again. That means we're not just looking at a short disruption. If neither side backs down, this could last for weeks, possibly longer. And during that time, uncertainty becomes the real enemy. People stop spending, businesses delay hiring, families put off medical care, markets react, confidence drops. This is why you need to prepare now, not later. Ask yourself this: if your paycheck were delayed, how long could you cover your bills? If travel disruptions hit, would you be affected? If healthcare costs rose again, would you be able to absorb it? These are not hypothetical questions anymore. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think lawmakers will reach a deal at the last minute? Or are we heading straight into another shutdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Reading your perspectives helps this channel grow and helps more people stay informed. And if you know someone who works for the federal government, travels frequently, or relies on government-funded programs, share this video with them. Information is protection. Here on Senior Mentor, our goal is simple: keep you ahead of the curve so you're never caught off guard. I'll continue monitoring this situation closely, and the moment anything changes, you'll hear it here first. Make sure you're subscribed, notifications are on, and stay alert. Because whether Congress acts or not, the clock is ticking, and every American has something at stake.